Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, today I am bringing on an incredible friend. She's also part of our Kiera's Dental Consulting team, an incredible consultant, a mentor to me. She is seriously phenomenal, so I am excited to welcome on Danielle. Danielle, how are you today?
I am doing fabulous.
I told Danielle last night, I said, Danielle, are you ready to dazzle and sparkle on this podcast? And Danielle, she wrote back and she said, my life is dazzle and sparkle, Kiera, you know this. And I just laughed because that's exactly who Danielle is. So Danielle, where are you at today?
I am sitting at my desk in Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice, nice. So Danielle and Tiffany have taken over the Arizona zone. Kaylee and I hit up the Reno zone pretty often. And then we have poor little Ashley who's hanging out in Salt Lake all by herself. So it's pretty, we got to get somebody else in Salt Lake. So if any of you listening have ever contemplated consulting, you're interested and you live in Salt Lake, we're obviously targeting. So Ashley's not solo over there. That's what we're looking for, right, Danielle? We're just always looking for people.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, I want you guys to get to know Danielle, and Danielle has a pretty fantastic skill set that I think all of you will be interested in. It's something I pick her brain on a lot. She's a guru when it comes to billing. So Danielle, give us kind of like a little history of your dental career, how you got into dentistry. Give us kind of a synopsis of who you are, and then we'll end on billing.
Sure. So I originally started in the medical side. I was working for United Healthcare as a medical biller, and
did you just find that job on Craigslist? Like, how did you find that job?
Actually, my mom was one of their very high up people there. Mm-hmm. So I started working there kind of right out of high school, and just thought it was kind of something I would love to do, but Danielle and corporate America do not mix. So I did not stay there for too long. I was there for a couple years, but I didn't love it. I love the medical billing side, but I did not love it in the whole corporate scene. So I decided to go a little bit more private and started working for a dentist. And I absolutely loved the field. I loved it so much that I decided to put myself through dental assisting school so I would learn and know a little bit more about what was going on in the front office. So from there, I was kind of dually trained. I was working in the back, working in the front, and truly I fell in love. I've basically worked in every single position you can that's not a clinician, and I've loved it the last 17 years.
17 years. That's insane. Yeah. I love that. And she's not that old, guys. Whenever I hear people be like, I've been in it for 20 years, I think they've got to be super old, but I'm coming up on that and I'm only 33. So you get into it pretty soon, early on in life. And and then it just sticks with you. That's awesome. I love that you took the initiative, and this is who you are with our company as well, where you just want to know everything. You want to be the best at your job. And I love that you just said, I'm going to put myself through dental assisting school so I know exactly what we're doing and how to do this better. And I love that initiative approach. And you did that on your own. It wasn't to get a pay raise or anything. You just literally were seeking knowledge for knowledge's sake. And that's who you are. So you got into billing though. How did you do from the back office to the billing zone? Was it because you'd been in billing before? Like, what was your niche going into billing? Because you are a very strong biller, and that's one of, I think, your greatest skill sets.
So I definitely understood that side because I had worked in the medical billing for that couple years before. So I understood the coding, and I understood, how to speak with patients and how to speak with people about when things aren't covered and why they're not covered, and the insurance side of it. So I felt like I had that, upper hand, basically, trying to explain to people the things that are really difficult to understand. So, and I don't feel like in the dental office, usually billing is looked at like, it's the person that sits in the corner and they really just sit and they bill behind a desk all day, but it really can be a different position. It's really that person that, should be looked at like everyone can go to them with that really important question. And, that those patients can come to them and they can ask those really important questions about finances that, a lot of people don't want to answer. So, I found that it was really helpful that I loved that position and I loved the people that I was getting to serve when I was sitting in those positions in the dental office.
I love that. I love that a lot. And you also have another interesting piece to you that you didn't share. You also own your own business, correct?
I do. Yeah.
Let's tell a little bit about that, because I think this makes you just a very fascinating, interesting person when I found this out about you.
So my business is completely different. I own a gymnastics club. So when people hear that and then they hear I do dental, they're a little bit surprised. But yes, I own a gymnastics facility here in Arizona. It is a little bit smaller in scale compared to what we do have here, but I love it just the way I love the dental field. So I do, I do kind of have those, I don't know, I'm able to have these fun conversations about everything in both of my lives, my dental life, my gymnastics life. So I love it. Yeah, I love everything about it.
So the real question is, can you still like walk on the balance beam and like do a cartwheel off the balance beam?
Yes.
Wow. I had no idea. That was a real question. I had no clue if you really could do it or not still. So one day we'll do a company retreat at your gymnastics gym just so we can see what you can do. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, you can do this. This is incredible.
So much fun.
So fun. And I wanted to bring out the fact that you have a business as well, because I think when you go in to consult in offices, I think it makes you a really valuable consultant as well, where you see the billing side, you understand from a business aspect. I know you've even given me advice. There are times when you say, Kiera, looking at it from a business side, this is what I do. From a consultant employee side, this is what I would do. And so I love that you also have that angle, because I think that that's an edge that I have as well when I'm talking to doctors, talking to offices. Seeing both sides of that coin really makes us, I think, just have a different angle and offer a different perspective than maybe some other people have. So let's get tactical though. So people now, this is Danielle. You guys can see why I love her on our team. She's just fun. She's witty. She has a lot of experience, but let's get tactical and let's talk about billing, because I know there are a lot of pieces right now. You and I are in the middle of helping some offices do some billing cleanup, and let's kind of talk about I like to dive deep to give people some tangibles that they can take and implement today. Sarah O'Brien and I did a podcast a while ago about, what you should do when you set up for billing so you can get really squared away of good information in, good information out. But you have billed in hundreds of offices. So let's talk about some of the things you see that people could then execute and implement in their practices and make their practices better when it comes to billing.
Sure. Well, what I can say first is that the most important piece that I see that's missing a lot of times is going to be just a lack of information. So the billing side becomes really difficult for every single office when there's just a lack of information on the front end. So just training that up in your office to really collect the important information upon that first encounter with your patient is just so important. And it really just helps your billing team out so much that I just can't stress that enough.
Okay, so give specifics of when you say that really important information, because for me, like eye color and hair color, I'm just kidding. That's not really important. But what would be the most important pieces that you would say absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts must be collected when we're setting up a new patient?
So of course, their name, their date of birth. Then it's the policy holder. We always forget that information. We always try to assume that our patient is going to be our policy holder. And if we get that policy holder information, sometimes we forget, did we get their date of birth? Did we get their social security number, if that's the ID number for their specific insurance company? There's just those little pieces of information. I love when offices have a encounter form that they use upon that first phone call, and it really helps them just get that information. I don't like when offices have to feel like robots on that phone call, but there's really a way to go through that phone call not feeling like you're just asking for information. But, a name, a date of birth, a policyholder's name, birthday, the insurance company's information, so we really know who we're calling. If they give us Delta Dental, we all know that there's so many of those. We don't know who we're calling if we don't know what state they're from. So there's so much information just on that first phone call that's important that we need to know.
Okay, I love that. And you guys have heard there's two different ways that I've seen that work really well. You can collect that information on the initial phone call. You can also have your patient send back new patient paperwork, and that so you can just have a 5-minute phone call, send them the paperwork. They can get it back to you, but making sure you're looking for those pieces, because I do know even when they send back that paperwork, you might still be missing some of that information, and that might be an area to just watch for. So if we can set it up correctly. And now, Danielle, you're cleaning up 2 offices right now. What would you say, like they're in a hot mess, their AR is sky high in the over 90. What got them there? Let's do an autopsy on these 2 practices without sharing who they are. Like, what got them into this hot water? Because if we set it up correctly, in theory, you set it up correctly, you process through correctly, you should never be in sky high over 90. But what got these 2 practices there? And they could be different, they could be the same, but what were the things that got them in high over 90?
Sure. So there are 2 different situations right now. One of them is more of a fee-for-service, and the other is more of a PPO-driven practice. So they are 2 different situations. In our fee-for-service practice, the billing department was having a little bit of a difficult time with difficult conversation about when to collect over the counter, when to bill the insurance companies for their patients as a courtesy. So they had taken it upon themselves to, even though they were out of network, to bill the insurance company and assume that the assignment of benefits going to patients, that patients were going to pay the office for that free dental work they just received. And that's not the case. So
this happens a lot. This isn't just a one time. This is not just this office. We see this so often. Like, yes, people are just good people. Obviously, they're going to pay us.
Absolutely. And it's okay to make this mistake one time and then fix it. So we are working with them, and we are getting it fixed, and they're on board, and it's fantastic because to really see that turnaround is amazing. But that really is the problem in that office.
So what did you do? What did you do? Sorry to interrupt you on that.
No,
but what
fine.
did you do to fix the problem?
Well, we have to go about having difficult conversations with our patients and really teaching them that we're doing them, it's a courtesy for us to bill their insurance, but we're having to bill the insurance, but also collect over the counter because they are out of network coverage.
So what would your perfect scripting for that say? So if you were sitting there, because I've watched you treatment plan in an office when we were consulting together, you do phenomenal with your words. So what would you say? How are you coaching this office on exactly what that difficult conversation is? So say, for example, I'm the patient, you're the person talking to me. How would you talk to me and tee me up from the get-go so you don't have to even come back afterwards? What would you say to me?
I would say, hey, Kiera, I want to thank you so much for coming in today. This is your treatment plan. We have got you treatment plan for $200. We are going to collect that today over the counter. And as a courtesy, I'm going to bill your insurance company. They're going to send you that check for that reimbursement.
Done.
Yep.
Done. And I think the confidence piece, being very confident. And I think sometimes the reason we're scared to collect, because I just heard it in another office. They said, well, I don't really know what the insurance is going to pay. So how can I collect this? And what if they get mad at me? And I say, the reality is you just remember that one or two angry patients that called you up because they were out of the norm, but you forget the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of totally fine, happy go lucky patients that didn't get upset with you. So let's focus more on those as opposed to that one or two angry patient. We can deal with those one or two, but let's not create a rule for one or two people when the bulk of people will be just fine. And that confidence that you had in there, Danielle, spot on. Awesome.
I'm actually glad you said that about that, not knowing what the insurance company is going to pay. The unfortunate part is we don't ever know the exact dollar amount. And I do coach offices, and I've coached my teammates in the past on telling them that it's okay to not know the exact dollar amount as long as we're upfront and honest. And when we're honest with our patients and we say things like, hey, you know what, this is just an estimate. Your insurance company is really kind of like a discount plan. So if they only pay, or if they pay $100 instead of $50, we're going to go ahead and leave that other $50 on your account, and you can use that $50 towards your next treatment. So we're going to let them know right away. If they pay more, that's awesome, but we're going to leave that on your account as a credit, and you can use it towards future treatment. So they know right away, like, it's a discount plan. Insurance companies stink, and we all know that, but we just need to be honest with our patients, and they really are okay with it.
And I think it's the big piece. We talk about this a lot with our team of the only reason that frustration occurs is when expectations aren't being met. So if you set an expectation of your insurance will cover everything, don't even worry about it, I'm never going to collect a dime for you. That's when you get this angry patient. When you say, hey, it's a discount plan. If they pay less or more than this, fantastic. This is what we're estimating. And at the end of the day, this is the most you'll ever pay out of pocket. That's an expectation that they now know, that they can count on, that they can sink their teeth into. So whatever expectation and being honest with them, like you were saying, it makes it so you don't have to have super hard conversations later. The really hard conversations are when you have to say, hey, I told you the insurance would cover this. Insurance ended up not covering this, and now you owe me money. That's a hard conversation, not the one at the beginning where you set the expectation. I always say, guys, it feels stressful for you because you know the weird rules that you can play by. But people coming into your office, they have no clue. You're the expert on this. So set the world that you want to be in, set those clear expectations, be confident with it, and use those words like you were saying to be honest with your patient. And you'll have a lot less problems in the future because you've set the stage already. So Danielle, what would you do if you were in an office and you've been for years and years saying to them, hey, it's kind of like a hygienist who's for years not been telling their patient they have perio. And then they have to say like, hey, sorry about that. You actually do have perio. I just was too chicken to tell you. Like that's a hard conversation to have. So as billers or as office managers, I know there's people listening to this podcast that are thinking, yeah, well, that'd be great if I was new in this office, or that'd be great if you guys were in here because you don't know these patients for the last 20 years. Like, what do you say to these patients to start that new trend of we're going to collect, or we're billing your insurance as a courtesy, or, we're going to collect today instead of billing your insurance like we've done for the last 30 years. How do you have that conversation?
So because it is difficult, I would approach it, and I've been coaching this office the same way, approaching it like it's always been there. Because if we approach it as if it's a new system, and we expect these patients to just all of a sudden pay us over the counter every single time, then I think it's going to fail. But if we approach it as if it's always been the system and it's always been there, and we approach it with a smile on our face, and we just present it and say, hey, all right, Susie, thanks so much for coming in today. That's going to be $150. Let's go ahead and take care of that.
But I've never paid this before, Danielle. Why am I paying today?
Oh, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take care of that. And then I'm going to hand you this claim form, or I'm going to mail this claim form out for you, and your insurance is going to pay you. They're going to send that to you right in the mail.
Oh, so that's awesome.
Yeah. Totally cool. You don't even have to wait for that check. It'll come to you in the next 15 days.
Perfect.
So it's just, right. If there's a positive vibe put behind things, I think people are more receptive to the change. If we look like we're afraid to have that conversation, people don't want to be receptive to change. So, all of you people out there listening to this, I cannot stress enough, just be positive. Your team is counting on you to be positive about this. It's important.
Totally. And I love that you just said, I had not thought of that, Danielle. That was a great point you said of just act as if this has always been the policy. There's no reason for you to feel like, this is awkward. You guys, people come to the office like once or twice a year. They really don't know what's normal or not normal. And that's okay. They're going to ask a question, but just because they question you, it doesn't mean they hate you or they think you're a terrible person or they're going to go write you a 1-star review. They write 1-star reviews when you're a jerk back to them and you don't have that positive smile and you become aggressive with them. That's when people get angry. But you can just be like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, yep, as a courtesy. And did you guys hear? Danielle stood really strong with me. I'm like, but I've never had to do this. Yep, totally. You're going to get this check in the mail. It's going to be fantastic. Pay up the $100. Like, it was no big deal for her. And I love what you said, Danielle. And I echo you of, if you have that positivity, you have that positive vibe, especially when it comes to billing. We get weird about it. We're so scared of rejection as a society. We think they're going to hate us. I remember there was a girl in an office and this is the mental picture I have all the time. She literally, I was having them ask for reviews. So whatever's out of your comfort zone, it was out of her comfort zone. Asking people to collect payments is out of your comfort zone. So whatever it is, you guys can think of this girl and I can share her name because this isn't her real name. She goes by Goldie in the office. And I remember walking back into the back and Goldie, she played basketball. She's like a defense. So she could box out really well. And she was like prepping for a basketball game in the back locker room area. Like, I felt like I was in the locker room ready to go to the gym as opposed to she's going out to the dental. And she works with little kids, so it wasn't like nothing crazy. And she's like walking back and forth, pacing like, okay, I just got to, I'm like, Goldie, what is going on? And she's like, I got to ask for a review, Kiera. I feel like I got to get mentally prepped for this. And I was like, Goldie, you're just asking for a review. You're not asking anybody on a date. Like, there is nothing to be stressed about. But that's what I think is we sometimes work ourselves up so much. Like, when you're thinking of, I got to go ask them for money. Like, are you sitting back there, like pumping yourself up to go out onto the gym floor to go win a basketball game? Or is it just the reality of this is how it's always been? We're a dental practice. We provide services. We collect money. Period. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That was beautiful. What about the other office? What's going on with them? They're not the fee for service. They're PPO. What are they doing?
So they are not fee for service. They are PPO, a little bit more PPO driven. So that, again, is just difficult conversation. They have been less intent about following up on unpaid claims, collecting over the counter, making sure that appropriate amounts were collected over the counter, and then following up on balances that were past due. So there's some that have gone over a year and have only received a statement versus just a quick phone call to the patient.
Yep, because we're afraid to have that conversation. So it's like, just keep mailing pieces of paper. One day they'll pay. I will tell you guys, truth is, our medical insurance will send us bills constantly, but I'm like, they'll send me another one. They'll send me another one. I did not call and make a payment for probably like 6 months until I got like a yellow paper in the mail that's like, this is your final notice. You're going to collections. Guess what? Made the payment. But we're so afraid to do this. We're so afraid for people to dislike us that we just keep mailing these pieces of paper and people just keep throwing them in the trash. Like, yep, nothing's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Just toss it, because there's no, the phone call really works. The phone calls work amazing. So, and I see this all the time, Danielle. So to just echo what you're saying, this is not just a one office, guys. Don't think that this is just one person out there. I think we're just scared. We're so scared to have that conversation of they're going to hate me. We want to be friends. And I think of my mom all the time. She told me, Kiera, parents who are afraid to put their foot down have children who walk on their toes. It is okay to expect patients to pay for their services. It is okay to expect patients to pay their bills on time. That is not you being a jerk. That's not you being abnormal. That's not you being some ruthless human being. That's you doing your job and expecting people to also do their job in a very kind way. It is not okay to just keep sending statements and not allow patients to pay. That's where you're not putting your foot down and you're having patients walk all over you.
Yeah. I explain this like when I see issues like this in an office, I really try to explain this as us showing up at, Fry's or Target with a grocery cart full of stuff. And I put it all on the belt and I let it go through the ringer and I have a $350 bill. Never once would I walk out with my stuff and say, hey, catch me later. Like, we have to pay right then and there for the services and for the items that we have purchased at the store. The dentist is not a store, but we have received services, so we do have to pay for them there. Now, of course, there are things that come up. There's things that are going on. Everyone has a life story, and that's fine. But we have to learn to have those conversations with our patients and really show empathy and, that we care, that we've been through those situations also. And those patients are usually a little bit more likely to say, oh gosh, you know what? I'm really going through something right now. We're having a difficult time. Can I pay half of this? And then can you take that other payment? Can I leave you my credit card number? Can you take that other payment in 2 weeks? Absolutely. But they just took care of it. And all it was a simple phone call that made it happen.
Totally.
Versus 50 statements.
And when you said that, Danielle, I actually was thinking back in the day, guys, what were they like? You actually had a tab at the grocery store. You'd go pick up your grain. Like, you think back a few decades ago for us, that used to be the common reality. You would go into the grocery store, you'd pick it up and it'd be like, just put it on my tab. Just put it on my tab. Grocery stores and other retailer stores had to change our mindset. They had to change the rules that we were living by as a society to where we don't just go to the grocery store, dump it on the conveyor belt and say, all right, put it on my tab. See you later. That's no longer common practice for us. And so I think if you guys can realize, like, even in retail merchandise, they changed the rules and we didn't all say like, we're never shopping at Target because you make me pay. Like, we didn't totally anarchy them and like run away. It was, we started playing by the rules that they set for us. And so I think when you said that, Danielle, I'd never thought of that. I've heard the grocery store analogy, but I never thought they had to change the mindset of people. And you in a dental practice can change it just as easily with a simple, this is what we do, having that conversation. And it doesn't have to be hard. When it is hard is when you just keep letting it go. And then you have to call and confess to that.
Agreed. Yep.
All right. So Danielle, you just gave two solid ways. So fee for service and also PPO. So and both of them really just tie to the same of having that conversation, setting that expectation up front. Is there any last things that you would want to tie in between these two offices that you thought were really good nuggets that people could go implement, because you've already given so many good words and different tactics, but is there anything you'd love to leave the listeners with today?
I really just would stress the importance of correct information. Gosh, there's so much about billing, to get into. If there's anything that anyone wants to know, let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. But there's just so much information that goes into billing. But those difficult conversations seem to be the piece that really hold our billing teams back. And it holds the practice back because we're afraid to collect ultimately for our practice. So go out there, smile about it, and get the collections that your practice deserves.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. And you guys, Danielle will be back. We're going to do quite a few more episodes. We're going to dive into billing. We'll talk about how to have those conversations even more so. So, but please email in info@thedentalateam.com. Danielle is not kidding. She geeks out over billing. So if you have any questions, info@thedentalateam.com. We can share forms. We can share anything you guys would like. So Danielle, thank you so much for being on our team. Thanks for being on the podcast today. I just adore you and I really appreciate you being on this with me today.
You are welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, this is Miss Danielle on the Dental A team, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for listening. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.